Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's happening, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday episode of The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Hustler with you, as always, presented to you by our wonderful partners at Coolbet, where they have taken a beating in golf over the last month and a half, courtesy of The Lock Shop. Huss, what's up, buddy?
Well, the celebrations for my guy Tony Fino continue. It's always great to win golf bets. It's even better to go back to back. And if it happens because you're your favorite, the guy that you ride or die with, the guy that you bet on more than anyone and probably should have a few more wins gets it done, it is that much sweeter. I'm sure you saw the video I put out. Normally I don't do that. We make enough bets, but that was a special afternoon. Oh, Tony Fino got it done. And listen, I almost tweeted this out, but I didn't want to jinx it. I wanted to say, if someone could just remind Scott Percy at the turn that he is, in fact, Scott Piercy, that would be appreciated. I think somebody did it, because what did he shoot, 40 or 41 on the back nine? I mean, when he put that one into the bunker on the side, hit it into the bunker, and then into the drink, it was basically a coronation. I mean, after the 8th or 9th hole, Tony was 5 shots back, and he had a 4-shot lead on 18 when he put
When do you see a 9-stroke swing? Like, never. That's insane.
Over 9 holes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But, I know we'll get to the Rocket Mortgage in a minute. Yeah. These two tournaments coming out of the British Open are pretty lean. I mean, as far as top players go, you had Hideki bail out of the tournament after, and I think that if he hadn't started, that number of 14 on Tony and 16 on Sungjae probably would have been more like 12 or 13. But anyways, the bottom line is, let's not screw it up and let's keep it going tonight, because I think between the two of us over 5 weeks, we've only missed the winner once, 4 out of 5. And that's just picking 3 guys a week. So it's going well. And shout out to everyone that has been tailing. Let's see if we can do it again. But I will say this. I want to get to CFL first. Huge game this weekend with the Bombers and the Stamps coming up. And I still can't get over, Dusty. 1 week ago when we did this show and we were talking about the Saskatchewan-Toronto game, Saskatchewan opened as a 6.5-point favorite, if you recall. And obviously there was a number of factors with COVID, and Fajardo ended up going off as a 3 or 3.5-point dog. I can't remember a 10-point swing almost ever from opening line to closing. But luckily we were both on the right side immediately on that one. I think a lot of people jumped on it earlier on in the week. So I'm looking forward to getting into these picks for the CFL. And I guess we can no longer bet the free agent status of Matthew Tkachuk after that big trade on Friday night.
Deal done as well.
Guys in sports radio, of course they dropped that on Friday night in the summer. I mean, by the time we got to Monday. Yeah.
Come on. That was absolutely ridiculous, but they managed to sneak that in. You're right on the Canadian Football League. We've got a great week coming up. Once again, if you are watching The Lock Shop right now, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Just search all your podcast platforms. You want to subscribe on all of them? Do it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. And it's brought to you by Coolbet. If you're not yet signed in an account at Coolbet, if you want to be betting CFL action, make sure you do that. Just go to coolbet.com. When you sign up, use the code LOCKSHOP so they know we sent you. And actually, Huss, it was funny. I called that game Friday night. I'm driving home after the game, and Awanik and Jeff, the experienced Walker, are doing our post-game show. And they wrap up, and ESPN Radio comes on, and the first thing I hear on ESPN Radio was the producer going, can't believe the Elks offense fell apart in the second half. And I was like, what's going on here? And he's telling the 2 hosts of the show, he goes, I had the over in the CFL game tonight. So then they talked about the CFL game for like 10 minutes, all just because the producer had money on the over and the offense dried up in the second half. And I was just like, boom. That's how you get eyes on the Canadian Football League, man. Get people involved in betting on the games.
The more the Canadian Football League can get their product out to people that are, frankly, right now, before NFL gets going, looking for something to bet on. I think we all know, and this is part of the reason why we're just kind of doing the one show right now, is that it's lean. We're hitting the golf, we're hitting the CFL. I mean, unless you're a daily baseball bettor or locking in on tennis daily, there really isn't a lot that I think that you'd want to, wager consistently on. So that's a perfect example of how more and more people are checking this league out for the first time through wagering. And it's a great thing for the league. And tell you what, we've got some good games this week that, the last few weeks have been just phenomenal. And that's the thing. If you'd never watched the CFL before and you're an NFL fan or from the States, and you've got action on that game, or my God, the week before with all 4 of those thrillers, how could you not leave going, this is amazing. How have I not been watching and betting on this more before?
Yeah, very entertaining games over the season so far. The first third of the season has been very entertaining, but the last 8 games on the schedule have basically come right down to the wire. So it's been very good. And we're going head-to-head on 3 games this week, which I absolutely love. Let's start with the Alouettes and the Ticats. You're on the Owls plus the points, which, it's pretty solid. I mean, I don't mind that play, but why are you on Montreal this week?
Listen, to be honest with you, I still don't really know what to expect from either of these teams. I think Montreal has been very, very undisciplined at times, and that's really hurt them. And they've blown a couple games in incredible fashion. I mean, I actually think that they're better than the record is. Whereas the Ticats, you could probably say that as well. But man, they've got a hard time, keeping their hands on the football, especially Dane Evans. And both teams are sort of finding their way right now. I think that win last week for Montreal was big for Danny Machocha, to sort of, get some positive feelings in that room after the firing of Kahari Jones, which I'm not sure was particularly popular with that team. But to be honest with you, this game to me comes down to a pick'em. I know the Ticats are at home, and I guess there is some advantage there, but I think we've seen so far in the East this year that really hasn't been that significant. And as I said, I think maybe I just believe a little bit more in Montreal than the other teams. Well, certainly Ottawa, and I think Hamilton as well. Now, as you can see, 2.5 was what I got at plus 102. I'm fully expecting this game to be at 3 at some point, unless it just goes the other way. It's showing plus 2.5 at even money right now. If it was offered at 3, I think I would, take it minus 115 or whatever and try and get the field goal. But at this point, I wouldn't even be surprised if the Montreal Alouettes won this game. They're plus 120 on the money line. So for a game like this, that I think is as close it is, and as I do, I think Montreal has a little bit more going for them right now. I'm going to take the Alouettes on the road to maybe make up for a couple of those games that they gave away earlier this season that they had no business losing.
Yeah, and I'm going to hop on the Ticats here, minus 123, minus 2.5. I love the fact that if the Ticats win by a field goal, I win this bet outright as opposed to have to push if the spread was at 3. But you nailed it right off the top. I thought you laid it out nicely. We really don't know what either of these teams are right now. Like, they've shown some flashes, especially the Alouettes. Like, the Alouettes have shown some pretty good flashes. I might look like a fool because we're already in week 8, and I'm still sitting here going, I think the Ticats are a better team than we've seen before. I think the Ticats are a better team than we see. And I still believe that. So I think the Ticats go home. I think they can win by a field goal against the Alouettes, and what will be like what you can say for most of these games this week, this should be a good, close, tight football game. Like, if you look at the first 3 games of the week, we're looking all 3 games. None of them are even 3 points. Like, it's a tight week in the Canadian Football League. And I'm going to go with the home side in this one and take the Ticats minus 2.5 here at minus 123. That brings us to the Lions and the Riders. It's the one game of the week that we both agree on, Huss, and we are on the BC Lions coming off a victory, only 1 loss on the season so far, and we're going to get them minus 1.5 here against the Riders.
Yeah. It is so wild when you look at BC's record and then you look at the Bombers that have played 7 games so far without a bye. But, they're rested. And of course they're taking on a team that I think is sort of kind of regressing back to the mean right now. And last week was a real tough spot. I mean, obviously, if you don't have your starting quarterback, first and foremost, you're at a big deficit. And then with the number of players that they had out, that were dealing with COVID. But then, through their entirely their own doing with Marino and Williams out for outrageous suspensions that probably could have been more severe. I think we're just seeing Saskatchewan regress to where they are, and that's the 4th best team in the Western Conference right now. And after this game, I wouldn't be surprised if their travel coordinator was already making plans for that Eastern crossover in the playoffs in about 3 months right now, because I really do think you've got Winnipeg, Calgary, and BC that are clearly the best 3 teams in the West, and I think that is proven this week. Now, we got on this last night at minus 1.5. I'm seeing that it's already 2. telling you right now, I think the way the public feels about the BC Lions
Field goal
and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, this will be 3 by the time they go off. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a little bit more. So if you do like BC, I think it's important you get that bet in early. And hey, listen, I think Nathan Rourke's the real deal. I think they've got a lot of talent around him right now. And, despite that loss to the Blue Bombers, they have still been one of the most impressive teams in the league so far this season. And I think Saskatchewan, to be honest, is going a little bit the wrong way right now. So I love BC to win, and I don't mind them covering the 1.5 or the 2 that's on the board right now.
Yeah, I was a little surprised BC's offense didn't click even a little bit more last week. I think you laid out the main reason here is the Riders and whatever's Cody Fajardo. Even when he's playing, you feel bad for the guy. He's got this huge brace on his leg. He cannot be as effective and as dangerous as Cody Fajardo is on a regular basis. And then you see what's happening with the receiving core right now. And the Riders' whole season's kind of just people in Regina will tell you this. It's kind of just hanging right now, right? You're like, man, can they figure it out? Can they get the discipline back? And can they compete with some of these top teams in the West? Right now, I feel very confident in saying the BC Lions are one of the 3 elite teams in the West. I don't think it's 4 elite teams right now. I think there's one team that has the personnel to possibly be elite, but they need to figure it out. Is this a spot at home? I'll be there on Friday night calling this game. I'm very much looking forward to it. But I think the BC Lions right now, and you're right, we got it last night -1.5. It's at 2. It's not going to move the other way. If anything, it's just going to continue to go in the direction of the BC Lions. So the Riders are going to have to prove to me that they can get this thing back on track before you start to side with them again. I don't think that's an unfair statement.
Cody Fajardo, and listen, everyone knows I'm a Winnipeg guy, a Bomber guy. This is not a shot at the Riders. I'm a fan of Cody Fajardo, and I think he's still, when he's healthy, he's one of the top QBs in the league. Cody Fajardo right now is 2021 Baker Mayfield, a guy that the entire team depends on, that is obviously injured in a significant way. He's trying to play through it, but nowhere close to 100%, and it's showing in the finished product right now. Part of me thinks that they'd be smart to sit him on the bench for another couple of weeks. I mean, to be honest, I think we know what their situation is. They're very likely to be a playoff team. But as I just laid out, it's probably going to be on the crossover. They'd be far better off. I don't have the schedule in front of me knowing when their next bye is. But, I mean, if they have one in a week or two and they know that Cody Fajardo could really benefit from being off the field for a little while, I think now is the time to do it as opposed to waiting till later on in the season and hopefully giving them the best chance to win. Because I'm sorry, whether it's coming through the East or in the West, they're going to have a very tough time winning football games if Cody Fajardo isn't playing his best right now. And I don't think he's capable of it because of what he's been through and what he's dealing with.
You asked for it. The Riders, they have a bye in week 9. So you could not play him this week and give him 3 weeks rest, essentially, which might take some convincing because, quarterbacks, they really want to play, and he's been playing through a lot already this year. But long-term, man, you give Cody Fajardo 3 weeks off in the middle of the season, and it could very much pay off for you.
And he was already hurt, and then he put out a statement about how much he got his ass kicked by COVID last week. I mean, as I said, you know what I mean? If this was a playoff game or something, I get it. But again, we kind of
Which also means this line is going to continue to go towards the BC Lions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If you like BC, get it right now. I'm not saying he for sure won't play, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And this could be the game, Dusty, that we go from a relatively close line at the beginning to a massive movement with some significant player news as we get
closer. If it officially gets announced that Cody Fajardo isn't playing, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions end up getting to 4.5 in this game.
Oh,
at least, yeah.
No, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, as long as, Nathan Rourke's in there for BC, I mean, BC's put up some points. They've been good so far.
All right, and then we get a game. It's sitting at 1 right now. Bombers and Stamps, so we decided to play it on the money line. And you can't get away from your Bombers when they have not lost yet this season, can you, Huss?
Why would I? I mean, listen, no one's getting rich betting against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and hasn't been for the last 3 seasons. That game on Friday or Saturday or whatever it was, Friday, I guess, that you called was one of the more bizarre games in recent CFL history.
Yeah.
I mean, no Greg Ellingson, no Jackson Jeffcoat, and certainly there is, every single week it's a revolving door with who's playing for Chris Jones and the Elks. But if you told me that the Bombers would lose the turnover battle, which they never do, that the Elks would dominate time of possession, and Zach Caleros would only complete 7 passes in the game, I'm not sure I would have expected a easy cover and only giving up 10 points. Hey, the Bomber defense is so good and so consistent. And even when, that was so weird. I mean, I don't know what your perspective was from the season. It seemed like they would throw for 7 or 8 yards on first down, and then they'd run a sneak and run another sneak. I mean, they were literally getting first downs using 3 plays over and over and over again. And that was a huge part of it. Then the minute they got into the Bomber zone, the Bombers just sort of tightened up, forced them to kick a field goal, or maybe got the ball back. So this is the toughest test so far, I think, of this and the BC game on the road. But we'll find out who. It doesn't sound like Ellingson or Nick Dembski were practicing today. I think if there was ever a spot maybe to go against Winnipeg, this would be it. But until somebody beats them, that guy's not going to be me. I ride with the blue and gold at 7-0 into this game. And by the way, we were looking at it last night. This game opened on the money line as a pick'em, minus 110 on both sides. They did allow, it was minus 110, but it was plus money with the Bombers. Now the 1-point spread is basically where the even money is, minus 110 on both sides. The Bomber money line has now gone to minus 122. The Stamps money line is plus 100. So, and honestly, these are the bets on the reputation of the Bombers, because we don't have all the information yet. We don't know who's playing on either side. But I'll say this about Winnipeg. They just know and find a way to win each and every week. And I mean, the last 2 weeks, a perfect example of teams killing themselves. Both Calgary and Edmonton took stupid, impactful roughing the kicker penalties, and the Bombers made them pay with touchdowns on both. I mean, you cannot make these sort of mistakes against Winnipeg. Teams have been doing it all year long, and that's a big reason why they're 7-0. A lot of the credit goes to Mike O'Shea and the culture and the responsibility amongst those players that he's done. That being said, this game could absolutely go either way. This is not a strong or a heavy play right now. But I'll tell you what, I can't wait for this game. It's going to be a highlight of the weekend for me.
I can't wait either. I got the back-to-backs this week, so I'm flying from Regina to Calgary on Saturday morning to do this game, and I had a chance to do the last one. And the moment, that game wasn't even over yet. I guess after the play that was almost caught, right after that, all I started thinking about right away was, my God, these two teams play again on July 30th. And since then, the Bombers, can prove to 7-0, which gives us another chance for a team out there to, finally hand the Bombers that first loss. And the Calgary Stampeders in that game against Winnipeg, I mean, was it twice they were inside the 5 and came away with a total of 3 points? Just cannot have that happen against anybody in all of football, essentially, but especially against the Bombers. So they put themselves in some really good spots, but then shot themselves in the foot. I think it was, I do a ton of games, but I think that was the game where they brought in Tommy Stevens and tried to have Stevens throw a touchdown pass as opposed to just, push ahead on the sneak, which kind of backfired. So I thought the Stamps sort of, out-thought themselves a little bit in that game. The one thing that I really like going for them, which is why I'm on Calgary in this game, is because coming out of a bye week, Bo Levi Mitchell and Dave Dickinson are near unbeatable. I think in the last 21 games, because I think it was 18-2 and 20, so I think it's 19-2 in their last 21 games coming out of a bye week. That's what they've done. They've won 19 of their last 21 after a bye. They gave the Bombers pretty much all they could handle the last time around. So I'm going to side with Calgary. I think this is where it ends. Sorry to all the Bombers fans. There's a few coaches on the Bombers. I'll see them every week. They're like, hey, you're good luck. Every time you do our game, we win. And I'm like, well, that's because you pretty much win every game, and I do most of them. But I feel like the Bombers, they continue to find ways, but at some point, that's got to go against them. And Calgary's near perfect coming off buys. So I'm going to go with the Stamps at home. I don't know what the crowd's going to be. It's not going to be IG Field, but it should be better than what we've seen in Calgary so far. So, and wait, quickly, one hesitation on this. I just saw Danny Austin tweeted out, Kadeem Carey has not practiced either day this week. So Kadeem Carey, now they've got Peyton Logan, who's pretty good, but he's a different type of runner than Kadeem Carey. They would need a Kadeem Carey for me to feel very confident about this. And even then, I'm still not super confident. So monitor the Kadeem Carey situation, I guess, is what I'm saying heading towards the weekend.
Well, I'll take those stats about Calgary coming off the bye And I will simply offer to you that Zach Collaros has lost one damn significant football game since becoming the quarterback of the Bombers in 2019. So, as I said, until further notice, the Bombers are the play for yours truly. Let's get it on tonight. It's wild. I mean, this last month and the toughest of schedules, we always joked about how Paul Maurice used to make excuses in advance for the Jets about time zones. Oh, they're playing in a time zone. And we jokingly banned time zones, even the mention of them on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But Remus did point out that they had the 3 games in 11 days, and their last 4 games have been in the East, the Central, the Mountain, and the West Coast. They've been all over the place. They continue to get it done. They'll have a little bit more rest this week as opposed to their last few games. So this one should be a dandy.
All right, and one last game to go. It is the Argos coming off that, back-to-back wins here against the Riders. 5.5-point favorites as of last night. Is it still sitting at 5.5 here as we do this?
Let's see here.
Still
right
5.5.
now, it is.
Yeah.
Yep, it is still 5.5, minus 110 on both sides.
All right, so where do you're on the Argos here by the points. I'm going to take the Red Blacks plus the points, and maybe I'm a fool for doing it, but they're going to win one at some point. I don't mind the 5.5 to keep it relatively close. This has been a league full of close games this year, so
listen, that's a great point. I'll say this though, I think the Argos are the best team in the East. I think they've got some real momentum after winning back-to-back games against Saskatchewan, and my God, Andrew Harris is just an absolute beast. Big milestone, hitting 10K on the ground on the weekend. And to be honest, I mean, our conversation on Monday was, can you imagine if Andrew Harris was still with the Bombers? I mean, that's the only thing right now that the Winnipeg team does not have at maybe a championship level. It's the running game. And then he is on such a mission right now. I mean, it wouldn't at all surprise me to see him get another crack at his old team in the Grey Cup, because I think they're the best team right now in the East. I think they've shown that so far this year. And I think they've got a home game against an Ottawa team that, listen, they're 0 for the season. Paul Appolise is now three wins over the course of the last 2 years right now. And I think Ottawa as a franchise is on a 6-32 run. It's ugly right now. And again, the guy that we thought would be able to turn it around is Jeremiah Masoli. And thanks to Marino and Saskatchewan, he's out for a significant period. To me, these two teams are going different directions right now. I guess for Ottawa, there's only one way to go, and that's up, and they'll get a win at some point. I just don't think this is it. I think Toronto jumps on Ottawa. I would have loved to get the number down a little bit, but I can absolutely see them winning by a touchdown, maybe even double digits. So I'm going to ride with Harris and the Argos the way they're playing right now. Ottawa's going to have to be way better than they've been if they're going to expect to get a win or even cover this number in TO.
Yeah, Ottawa sure is an interesting one. I mean, you look at their schedule this year. They started with the back-to-backs against Winnipeg. That first game was close, and then they had a bye week. Then they lost by 3 points against the BC Lions. They lost to the Riders by 15. And then in the last 2 games, without Jeremiah Masoli, they lost to Hamilton 25-23, and then they lost that absolutely insane Thursday nighter 40-33 to Montreal, a game that they should have at least been able to send to overtime with a clear drop late in the game. So, as bad as that record looks, it's close losses against teams that you think they should play well, and then they hung around a little bit against the Bombers, but that was with Jeremiah Masoli. I'm kind of eliminating all the Masoli stuff. Yeah. In the last 2 weeks, they should have had a better result against Montreal, and they lost to Hamilton by 2 points. So it sounds so weird to say they're not as bad as a winless team looks, but I believe that. So I'm going to take the Red Blacks plus the 5.5 points.
They were up. I mean, I had Ottawa in that game. I mean, I'm still pissed off about Darvin Adams dropping that ball in the end zone. I mean, that would have, listen, I was apoplectic about it all. I mean, the fact, they were up 11 early, and this is what bad teams do. You go up 11 early, think, oh, this is great. And then the next thing you know, it's the fourth quarter and you're down by 14. Now, Montreal has been terrible with leads. Just ask any Elks fan that saw what happened 2 weeks ago. They somehow allowed Ottawa back in it. And that game should have absolutely gone to overtime, or at least had the opportunity for a 2-pointer or a convert right now. And Ottawa backers would have probably been feeling a lot better right now. But that's, bad teams make those sorts of mistakes. And I hate to say it, I love Paul Appolice, but his teams continue to do that. They killed themselves with bad penalties and bad coaching. I mean, the clock management, if you recall in that first game when they just let the clock run out at the beginning of the first half and didn't even get a chance to kick what would have been an easy field goal, was unacceptable. And good teams don't do that. Ottawa does. So we'll see not that Toronto's been perfect. They've made their share of mistakes. I just think their personnel, their talent, and where they're going is much better. Be a fun way to wrap up the weekend with the finale in those two Ontario teams.
There you go. I'll just say it. I'm going to give us the old Barry Horowitz here. I think that's the best CFL betting preview you're going to find in the country this week, as we laid out the all 4 games for you over the last 25 minutes. We do have some NFL futures bets that we're going to get to coming up, and the red hot lock shop golf tour continues as we head to the Rocket Mortgage Open. I hit 2 in a row, then we missed on 1. Now Huss has hit 2 in a row. And buddy, 4 or 5. I see some guys are like, I picked 12 outright so far this year. And then I go look at his picks and he's picking 25 guys a week. I'm like, come on, that's against the rules. So we're picking 6 combined between the two of us. And we've hit 4 of the last 5, which is a really remarkable run. We had a good little heater at one point last year during the golf season as well. And boy, if we can make it 5 of 6, buddy, that's a lock shop first right there.
Well, it would be, and the Rocket Mortgage is interesting. I mean, listen, they've lost a lot of players to live. And of course, with the post-British Open schedule, a lot of the top guys aren't at the 3M Open and aren't at the Rocket Mortgage, which has made the odds board a little, I think, sort of easier to target in on the top guys that maybe we might not normally pick. Now, I'll say normally I usually get 2 guys that would be more in the favorite to 30 to range. And I'll usually try and get a guy over 40 or 50. This is a little different. Now, we could absolutely have somebody that pops in and goes off at a much better number. But Max Homa is the guy that I like the most. Homa has a guy that's shown that he can win in the past. He had that great win at Genesis, the hometown hero last year. And, amongst the guys that are in this group, Pat Cantlay, Tony Fino, Zalatoris, Cam Young, Homa, Davis, I think he's got as good a chance to win as anyone. And I think considering the field, there's some nice value with Max Homa at 22-1. Cam Davis has not been great as of late. He's kind of gone from 40, 50th finishes and missed cuts. But events like this, and we've seen this before over and over. KH Lee earlier this year is a perfect example when he won it at 100-1. Cam Davis won this event last year. And there's guys that sometimes struggle that don't give you a lot of reason to back them based on recent play, that can come back to an event and a golf course and immediately feel like they were 365 days ago winning the tournament and raising the trophy. And that's what this bet on Cam Davis is right now. There's not a lot in his recent form that would tell you that he's ready to win on the PGA Tour. But I think with the lighter field right now and the fact that, he had his win last year at this event, I think that there's a reason to jump on him at 28-1. So those are the 2 picks. Now, normally at this point, I would go a little further down and, grab, I see Webb Simpson's at 39-1. They've got Siwoo Kim's a guy that I like, is at 49. But I'm going back with Tony Fino. Everyone knows he's my ride or die. In lock shop history, there is not any person or team that has been bet on more by yours truly with Tony. So the way that he played last week with that win, and frankly, the way he finished up the British Open, we've always talked about how Tony Fino is such a great golfer, but he doesn't have the wins. And I said last week, this feels like the Puerto Rico Open all over again, where you don't have a lot of that class that's challenging him. Why wouldn't he win? I'm going to say it again this week. So at 14-1, he's the second favorite on the board behind Patrick Cantlay. I've got a little bit of extra change in the Coolbet account thanks to Tony last week. So instead of putting a smaller amount on a long shot, we'll put a chunk on the T-Dog and see if he can go back-to-back. But really do like Max Homa. Cam Davis at 20-1, I think, is definitely worthy of a sprinkle, considering he won there last year. And as I said, with the way Tony's playing as consistently as he is for the most part, albeit minus the hitting it into the water with that 4-shot lead on 18 that sort of freaked me out a bit. Those are the picks right now, and wouldn't it be nice to go 5 of 6 and 3 in a row?
That would be amazing. I'm going to throw 3 more names in there, and I know it's chalky, but I'm on Pat Cantlay. And you know why? Because chalk has paid off for us during this stretch in 4 of the last 5. And, with the field, I was just thinking, I was like, man, should Cantlay even be a little bit of a shorter number? But he's at 9-1 right now, and, he hasn't had the season that he had.
10-1 right now.
Okay,
he just
he's
went
gone
up
to 10-1. So he's at 10-1. He was at 9-1 last night when I locked this in. But since Memorial, he has gone T3, T14, T13, T4, T8. That sounds like a guy that we know has the abilities, and his game is really starting to come around. So with the weaker field, I'm going to ride with Cantlay here now. I got it at 9-1 last night. Huss says it is 10-1 right now. I'm also going to go with essentially super rookie. I mean, a lot of people might not know Cam Young, but what he's done so far this year is pretty impressive. He hasn't won yet, so this is the old classic he's due with the way he's been playing, but he's got 4 seconds and 2/3, and he's 13th in the FedEx Cup standings right now. That's how well he has played, and he's kind of flown under the radar. 2nd in strokes gained off the tee, and 4th in putting so far on the tour this year, and you can get him at 16-1. It's just, he's going to get one. And he's playing well enough to get one this year. Maybe he gets one next year. There's been some guys that we've been really hot and heavy for over the last little while, last couple of years. You're like, oh, he's going to get one. He's going to get one. And then he gets it a little bit later than we think. I think with the field this week, I think with the way Cam Young's played this year, there might not be another second in the cards for him. There might actually be a win. So Cam Young's a name that I like. I've seen him pop up a bunch of other places as well. And then I am going to go with Kiz, who was on a horrible run for a good stretch here. In May, missed the cut. To start in June, he missed the cut at the U.S. Open. And then the last 2 events, Travelers, he was T6. Open Championship, he was T21. And if I recall correctly, Kiz started the year pretty well. And then he just fell apart in May. So this was a guy who had a bunch of top 5s earlier in the year and even going back to the end of last year. You can get him at 33-1 right now. And I don't know what was going on with him. Maybe you do, Huss, during that stretch of 4 consecutive missed cuts. But he looks like his games, he's kind of found it again. And like I said, maybe that number's being hit a bit because he missed so many cuts in May and the early part of June. So I'm going to hop on Kiz at 33-1.
Yeah, and Kiz is also, and by the way, now, I mean, they didn't have this when we were there last night, but you can also get the top 5s and top 10 numbers are up right now. And Kisner's 7-1 for top 5 plus 350. The one thing I'll say about Kiz, he's no dummy. He goes into some of these events. He knows that he's better than a lot of these guys. And even if he doesn't win, he is able to cash checks. Because as I said, like he says, it ain't no hobby. They're out there to work and they need to get paid. I'd love to see it. I mean, he's a favorite of mine, has a pretty unique game, not a long hitter. But when his short game and putting is clicking, he's as good as anybody out there. So if the putter's going, and I think probably a bit of a cold stretch with that club in particular, handled a few of those missed cuts earlier on, but he's right now. And by the way, just if you like Dusty's picks, this is a good time. You've got a better number, 10-1 on Cantlay right now, and Cam Young surprisingly has gone up 2 to 18-1. Wouldn't be surprised if that goes back down to a little bit of a run. And yesterday, Will Zalatoris was at 16. He's now to 14. So Zalatoris, it's funny that he's not on our card because I think a lot of us that have been picking this week after week, you want to talk about a guy like Cam Young that's due to finally get a win. I'm not sure there's anybody. Well, maybe those 2 guys, but Zalatoris would be at the top of that list. That being said, I'm not on Willie Z right now. If we're going to get a 14-1, we're just going to try and go back-to-back with Tony Fino and throw Max and Cam Davis.
Well, I'd rather take Young at 18-1 than Willie at 14. And I saw your picks last night, and then I was diving into mine. And then I saw Zalatoris kicking around. I was like, man, it's not a strong field. And then I thought, well, maybe Huss took him because I thought, maybe. And I went back and looked. I was like, no, he's not on him. So then I debated him for a bit. But then I was like, yeah, you know what? If I'm going to go with Cantlay Young, I'm going to look for something a little bit bigger. So I went to Kiz at 33-1. So we look to make it 5 of 6. And if we are in the hunt come Sunday, you'll be watching for Twitter because we'll be bringing some fire. I think that's for sure. Let's wrap up with some NFL futures, Huss, and obviously, and we're going to have some big plans that we'll announce here as we work our way through August for NFL coverage and NFL betting for the upcoming season. But it's always nice to dive into to the futures, Huss, and Coolbet's got a bunch of them already posted.
Well, yeah, and I mean, listen, we'll do a couple special shows where we're talking about picks for the year and go through all the divisions and all that. But I figured right now with training camps opening, was a good day to maybe just dive into a few early MV or player props and awards props for the year. Right now at Coolbet, you've got the regular season MVP, the defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year, the comeback player of the year, the offensive rookie of the year, coach of the year as well. Those numbers are all up there. And I don't know, maybe the reason why I wanted to do this so much is I just wanted to have a public forum to resist and go against some of the ridiculous narratives that are floating around the sports media world on one Patrick Mahomes. I saw Dan Orlovsky say yesterday on ESPN that he was talking to a scout, and that scout says that he would actually take Kyler Murray over Patrick Mahomes because Mahomes, there are some things that Murray can do that Mahomes can't do, and Murray can do everything Mahomes. And I'm like, is this comedy? Is this satire? Well, we'll find out this season.
Does Mahomes have a homework and don't play video games clause in his contract?
What a joke. Mahomes is sitting there going, I'm not worrying about all the money that the other guys are getting. I'm paid very well. I want my team to be in. He's about winning, and the winning is going to be, I think, what helps whoever wins this MVP get it done. It's probably at the quarterback position. I think Mahomes, just going into the season is more set to win this than ever because Tyreek Hill is not there, and you've got this improved division, which will be the talk of the entire National Football League. I'm here to tell you right now, folks, Patrick Mahomes is going scorched earth on the National Football League this year. All this bullshit about this team taking a step back and will they even win the division? Andy Reid and Mahomes are going to show. And some of the stuff that's come out of Miami, including from Tyreek Hill, don't think that hasn't been noted. Mahomes seems like a happy guy and he's always there and he's all in. Don't think that some of that stuff isn't at the back. Listen, if the Chiefs can do what they always do, and that's win the AFC West, that's be one of the top teams, potentially have home field in the playoffs. If they do that, I think he'll get more recognition this year because of losing Tyreek Hill and because of the benefits of the AFC West. So I think at 8-1, trailing only Josh Allen at 7-1 for MVP is some nice value on number 15. A couple of other ones, the defensive player of the year. TJ Watt, who obviously had his monster season last year, is at 8-1. You got Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons at plus 750. But I'm going to go with Nick Bosa. To me, Nick Bosa is sort of like, this could be this year's TJ Watt. The biggest thing is he's got to stay healthy. And I mean, anytime you're picking these guys, if they end up missing half the season, your bet's done. I was high on Derwin James last year for comeback player of the year and whatnot. But, if you miss a bunch of games, you're not doing it. If Nick Bosa can play all 17 regular season games for a very competitive San Francisco team, I think he has the ability to put up numbers like TJ Watt did. And unfortunately, this award often comes down to numbers. I mean, I think Aaron Donald's far and away the best defensive player, but when you've got three guys on you each and every play, what it does is allow some of your less talented teammates to go in there and get those numbers. I think San Francisco's deeper along the defensive line. So I think that Bosa will have the opportunity and can put up those numbers if he's able to play the whole season. I don't mind him at 9-1. And I'll tell you what, we're both on the offensive rookie of the year. So why don't you hit your two MVP ones, and then you being the fantasy football extravaganza guy can talk about why everyone's so horny for Breece Hall and why at 10-1 he seems like a good rookie of the year pick.
It's a really juicy spot. I absolutely love him. When I saw your pick, I was like, well, I can't do anything else. And I don't technically like betting on defensive players of the year anyway. So I went with two MVP candidates. And it's both of these younger guys, these younger quarterbacks who've now established themselves in the National Football League and can take their teams and themselves to the next level. So, I'll start with Justin Herbert because Justin Herbert essentially put up MVP numbers last year. He had 38 touchdown passes last year. He threw for over 5,000 yards. And the team defensively, if I recall correctly, dealt with a bunch of injuries last year. But if you're Justin Herbert, you're rolling out there with Austin Eckler again. You're rolling out there with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And I know it's a tough division, but if they can find to have success in that division, it's going to go a long way because I think Herbert's one of those sexy guys that people want to see get an MVP, that want to give one to because of the package and what he's able to bring to the table. So he's at 11-1. I think do you have the list in front of you? Is he like fifth?
I sure do.
I think he's fifth or sixth or something like that in the odds. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he's fifth. It was 7-1 for Allen, 8-1 for Mahomes, 10-1 for Brady and Rodgers, 11-1 for her. By the way, did you see Rodgers?
I saw Rodgers
today.
You can't tell me that Aaron Rodgers did not purposely dress as Nick Cage and Con Air to come to camp today just for the spotlight. Had to have happened. He's a spitting image.
He's lost his mind. This is going to be the most hilarious season of Aaron Rodgers. Have you heard about his new girlfriend? She's like a spiritual advisor.
The witch?
Yeah. Her name is Blue of Earth. Like you can't even make this stuff up.
I was going to say, it sounds like she should be dating Kyrie Irving, but to be honest with you, she's right where she belongs. She's right where she belongs. And then I'm going to go with Joe Burrow, who got his appendix taken out today, by the way. But he's going to be fine. Might miss the first little part here of camp, but they decided to get that done now. You just saw what Burrow did last year. Like once he got comfortable and in the playoffs, he was absolutely sensational. So I'm going to go with Burrow here. I like the number at 16-1. I don't know if it falls down much lower. Like I think this number might only end up, moving the other way here. So I like Joe Burrow at 60. I'm not sure anybody has a better three weapons than Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. That offense should be straight fire. He comes with the pedigree of somebody who eventually wins an MVP, and you get him at 16-1. So I'm going to go Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert as two young quarterbacks who I think eventually win MVPs at some point in their career, both of them. Maybe this is the year for them. And then that offensive rookie of the year, the receivers, just quickly for me on that. Hall is in a situation where it doesn't, and I don't know how much of an impact Michael Carter is going to have on this. But the receivers, the majority of them landed in spots where you don't love the quarterback situation right now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we all seem to think, and everybody I'm following from a fantasy perspective, obviously I'm definitely taking deep dives into this. And I think I saw something over the last 3 years. There was a stat. There's usually a rookie running back in the top 10 in fantasy at the end of the year. And I can't see another guy with the path that Hall has to do it. And with some question marks around many of the wide receivers, I just think, what's he second? I think there's one wide receiver ahead of him, isn't there? Or is there two? I love him at 10-1. You're not going to find Hall any lower than this, I don't think.
Yeah, the Kenny Pickett, the one quarterback on the list, is at 7-1. And then you've got Olave, Breece Hall, James Cook, and Sky Moore at 10-1. Burks is at 11. Drake London, Jalen Tolbert. Put it this way. The only other guy that I'd be jumping on with a sprinkle right now is Christian Watson in Green Bay. I think he has the opportunity because of the losing Adams to the Raiders, that they might lean on him. And if he has the opportunity to create some real connection with Aaron Rodgers early. And if Rodgers trusts him, he will get balls. So, I mean, that's the one guy that I would go. But yeah, Breece Hall on this newfound weapon for the Jets offense. I think the Jets have quietly put together some pretty good pieces that they can protect the MILF Hunter behind center. Zach Wilson, he should be, he will get the opportunities to do it. He seems like an incredibly dynamic player. And let's face it, in the world that we live in right now, stats, fantasy performance is so important, especially for a team like the Jets that not a lot is expected of. So if he can put up those big numbers, he'll get the attention that he needs to get the votes. And, by the way, it doesn't hurt playing in New York City either.
Yeah, that'll certainly help as well. That's true. All right, so like we said, lots more NFL futures and stuff working through August, heading towards kickoff in September. Winnipeg Sports Talk today. Huss, what do you got coming up over there on YouTube?
Well, we're going to kick it over in about 15 minutes. So, join us. We'll search Winnipeg Sports Talk. Give us a sub. We're going to head over to Calgary, get a little more fallout from the big trade on the weekend, as well as the availabilities of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar yesterday. and we'll spend more time dissecting what we did and didn't hear from Pierre-Luc Dubois yesterday. And where the Jets go from here heading into August was still some major things they need to get done this season, and seemingly having a tougher time moving a couple pieces because of where that's at. So it's all there at 1 o'clock. And folks, tomorrow morning, road game for yours truly, Nielsen Draft. The draft prep continues. What are we drafting again? The dynamic duos.
Like yeah, we've got 2
broad
sports duos, 3 food duos or drinks, 3 entertainment duos, and 4 open spots, buddy. So it should be a good one. You're picking first overall. No pressure.
I know. Well, you know what? This is exactly the sort of break that I needed, I think, to be. I'm not sure, but in Nielsen Draft history, has anyone out of market other than my historic win in the Christmas movie draft actually won? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so, buddy. So you got a chance to get another one here. We'll see how it plays out. So it should be fun. Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube and podcast. That's where you can find. That's where you can find us today. Nielsen Show tomorrow on TSN 1260. You can stream it live, or you can find that on the podcast as well. And of course, the Lock Shop is brought to you by our wonderful partners at CoolBet. Good luck with the Canadian Football League this week, and hopefully you're hopping on with golf, and we can make it 5 of 6. Huss, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Right on. See you tomorrow morning.
See you later, buddy.